Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. I'm Maria Casillas, joined here by my incredible co-host, Cody Sizemore. We are very excited to talk to you today about a question that came in through one of the Facebook groups that we had listed something in. And we love answering these questions right here on our podcast because, first of all, you all know that we just like to shoot from the hip and we don't have anything prepared for that. But I think it's really important for you to know that we also struggle with some of the things that are on the minds of the coaches who are posting in there. So we're looking forward to doing that. But before we do that, we just wanted to say thank you so much to each one of you who's tuned in today. We appreciate you, and we know that you have choices out there. So we appreciate that you are choosing to listen to what we are sharing with you today. Cody, how are you doing?
Doing great.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Oh, of course, yes. I always love doing this with you, catching up a little bit on how your life is. I hear that there is a really important question that came in through one of the Facebook groups. Now, it's not our Facebook group, but we have shared our podcast in other Facebook groups as well. And it sounds like this is a question that came in response to something that we had put out there, correct?
That is right.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear it, and let's just go ahead and talk about what we find out.
Okay. So I'll just go ahead and read the question as a whole, and then we'll just jump straight into it. But
Perfect.
basically, this person had asked and said, I just posted on our small towns Facebook group asking for financial advisors who work with young people because I was looking to network. And I got about 30 different responses of people just here locally, including local banks who also offer financial counseling, and of course, YouTube advice and other churches hosting FPU as well. I'm sure bigger cities have financial professionals around every corner. It would be nice having some insights into how you can stand out, gain influence, build trust, and grow a business in what seems like a very saturated market.
Okay. Good question. There's so much to unpack there. I don't know about you, Cody, but I'm hearing a whole lot to unpack. One of the things that I heard was putting a question out there, looking for something. And then when getting responses, there was almost like this, I don't know, like this barrage of scared that came over this person. Like, oh my gosh, there's all of this competition that's out there. And what's interesting to me is out of the 30 responses, now granted, he didn't list every one, but he didn't mention that there were any other financial coaches that actually responded. So that's something that just jumped out at me. But even still, because there were people in the industry who were reaching out, which by the way, this person was looking for people in the I think it was financial advisors that he was looking for. And people in this industry kind of came out, then it's like, oh my gosh, there's all of these other people. So let's be careful what we ask for, remember? But also, we have to make sure we keep our mindset in a spot where we don't allow ourselves to be taken over by some of those fears that come along. I'm going to let that sit for a second before I say anything else. What were some things that you picked up on, or what are your responses to that observation?
I think it's pretty similar. I think that this coach is probably a newer coach.
Okay.
And he's probably trying to just figure things out as far as, like he mentioned, like networking, and then also just trying to find clients, like find prospects and stuff like that. So he probably has been trying to find clients and prospecting for maybe a little bit of time, but hasn't seen like a ton of success because, again, he is a newer coach. And I think that like just seeing that there's so many of these advisors around every corner as to what he's kind of saying. Plus you add on top of that, the YouTube advice and, the banks and FPU and all this kinds of stuff. I think that he is like looking at this and he's like, there's no way that I can compete with this. There's no way that I can stand out with this. And, what's the chance that I actually make something of this coaching idea that I had? So I would agree with you. I think that it is a fear kind of thing. And I think that it's being inflated as well.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, we all do this to ourselves, all of that, those messages, they kind of creep in and say, well, you're not really good enough to do this. There's nothing that sets you apart. People are already being served by all of these other, resources that are out there. And I'm just going to say, let's take it out of the context of financial coaching for just a second, because sometimes it's easier to see the forest through the trees when we're not looking at the trees that are affecting us specifically. So let's talk about like groceries, for example. Mm-hmm. Are there grocery stores out there? Yes.
I've seen a couple.
I've seen it. I can't afford to buy anything at them right now, but we've seen them. Yeah. What about grocery stores that are coming up? Do you see any that are being built around you? And maybe you don't, but I definitely do.
Actually, there was one put in like a month ago.
Okay. So
across the street.
Okay. Now, did all of the people who were seeing that go, why do we have another grocery store? We already have a grocery store 3 miles down the road. We don't need another one here. Or were they thrilled that there was a grocery store a little bit closer to where they lived?
So I can even just speak for my own family. We were stoked. We were stoked because it was an Aldi. So, and the closest Aldi from us up until that point was like 20 minutes away.
Okay.
And we love Aldi.
Okay.
So, So yeah, I mean, like we were excited, and I'm pretty sure that other people are too.
Okay. So what does this have to do with the question that this coach posted?
Well, probably because on my street, there's also a Meijer, and then there's also a Walmart. Within, I mean, the Meijer is like less than a quarter mile away from this Aldi, and then the Walmart is about a mile away. So again, saturated market. 3 grocery stores, 3 major grocery stores within 1 mile of each other. Saturated.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that you mentioned. One, when you first said that you and your family were stoked, you named a specific brand. You said that there is one that's about 20 minutes away, one of the two. But that one, now we have this brand that we really like, this approach that we really like right here, much closer to where we are. You also said couple minutes later that there were other grocery brands that were still within your proximity. And so it's not like you didn't have the option to go and get food. And maybe every once in a while you did. Maybe you went to a Meijer when you needed a specific item and you couldn't go to the other place. Maybe you went to the other one, which I don't remember off the top of my head. Was it Smith's? I don't remember what you said. Walmart. Okay. So maybe you go to Walmart for something, but you really, really, really like Aldi. And so you were thrilled when it was there. This is no different than likening Walmart in this scenario to something like YouTube. Maybe there is something you can go and get at YouTube. Maybe your potential clients need just a little bit of information and they can go and get that just by looking it up on YouTube. That's one way to do it. Maybe they could even get some, I think they said banking counseling, right? Like financial counseling, which is a little bit different than coaching. But maybe they could even get that at a bank and maybe it's free and they could just go and ask for a couple of those things. But they really want the Aldi. They want what you have to offer. They want your specific brand. They want your specific offerings. They want your specific proximity. There are things that are different that set you apart than some of the other things that are in there.
And I agree. And I think that kind of goes into the other parts of the question that he asked, because he said, how do I stand out, gain influence, build trust, and grow a business in what seems like a very saturated market? So I want to speak on that for a second, because he said it correctly. It seems like it's a saturated market, when really, at least from what I've learned about this financial coaching world, there's a ton of financial advisors everywhere. Everywhere. And if we wanted to say that something was saturated, I mean, you could say that, like life insurance agents, financial advisors, like there's a ton of those. But at least from what I've seen, there's not a lot of financial coaches. Like there's a decent amount, but not anywhere near advisors kind of thing. And it even just kind of goes to show like, hey, sometimes when people are talking about a financial coach, they still call them a financial advisor because they've been hearing that so much for so long, kind of thing. So I think that even that just speaks volumes about that in the first place. But then, you do have like the things like the YouTube, you have the banks offering certain things, you have, FPU and stuff like that. And honestly, like my big thing is this: there are other options out there for people, but there isn't another you out there for someone. And I think that's really, really important to understand, because people can go on YouTube and they can learn as much as they want for free.
That's right.
People can sign up for FPU for $100 and go there for 9 weeks, and they can learn a bunch of new information. People can, talk to a bank and, maybe go there for free and sit down with one of their bankers and strategize, once every 3 to 6 months. They can do that and get a bunch of information. There's so much information out there, and that's not the problem. Like, if all people needed was just information to take their lives and change the script as far as like what their financial lives look like, then there'd be no point in having a financial coach. There'd be no point in anyone really doing anything aside from just posting videos on YouTube. That's it. That's not right. The problem. Like, information shortage is not the problem. It's the transformation shortage. And it's having someone there in your corner to help you and to guide you and to sit down with you and to support you and to ask you tough questions, to get you thinking about money in a different way than just looking at a spreadsheet or doing calculations with a calculator. Like, it is you that there is a shortage of. And that is why it's not saturated, because there's only one. There's only one. And there might be, FPU might work great for someone. The bank thing might work great for someone. The YouTube thing might work great for someone. But there are so many people locally, regionally, and nationally that are literally just like waiting for you with your unique, your unique skill set, unique perspectives, unique personality, all that kinds of stuff. That is there is a shortage there, and it's because there's only one.
Yeah. And that would actually bring up the real struggle here, which is, how are we going to serve all the people who need just us? That's really the question we should be asking ourselves. And so this is a kind of a reframing of, there seems to be a little bit of a shortage, but to your point, it's not a shortage of potential clients. It's a shortage of us, because we only have so many hours in a day. We only have a certain capacity to serve a certain number of people. And that's why, going back to the grocery store thing, they had to put another grocery store in your area. Could you imagine if there was just one grocery store? Like, I live in a place where they're just building up so much around us, which quite frankly, I'm a little annoyed by, but that's for a different day. If we had all of the new people who are coming into the area being shoved into one grocery store, do you think anybody in their right mind would appreciate and enjoy going to that grocery store?
No.
No. Not even close. I don't even like going on a Sunday after church because it's so busy. I'm like, get me out of here. So that's why we need to have other grocery stores pop up, because of the experience, the user experience. We want them to actually enjoy coming so that they'll come back. We don't want to have everybody crowded in all the time. And so our problem now is not that we have too many financial coaches. We need more of them, because if all of those people around you in your area, whether it's a big city or a small town like this poster mentioned, we have enough people who could use what we offer. We only have one of us. And so it's almost like we need to figure out a way to create more of us so that we can have a better user experience for all those people who are needing us. So don't be discouraged or intimidated by the other offerings that are around you. Use them to your advantage. Maybe you have somebody who needs specific information and you can actually send them to get that information on YouTube so that you're not wasting your precious time giving them information that they could find on their own. You're using your time to help coach them and make them take action, help them take action, not make them do anything. But yeah.
Well, and here's another way of thinking about this. And I want to say a few things. First and foremost, this is just like finding like the right doctor kind of thing. Like there's so many doctors out there, but finding the right one for you is really, really important. And I've worked with several people who have become clients who have done FPU, or they talked to a financial advisor, or they did XYZ and it didn't resonate with them. It didn't work for them. And then, we did this stuff together, and they're like, hey, I'm really, really glad that we got connected because this finally clicked kind of thing. And that's just my personal experience. That'll be true for someone else, as well. But it's finding the right person that's important. And here's the other thing I want to say too. The very fact that we're even talking about this and that you, the listener, are listening to this, the fact that we're doing this podcast really does show that there is really no competition. Because if there was a competition and there was such a shortage of quantity on potential clients, why in the world would we do this podcast? To help coaches grow their practices, to then take up all of the potential clients. Like, why in the world would we do that? We're not running ads on this show. We don't make money off of this show. We do this for free. We do this because we like it. So why in the world would we do that? That's like a perfect example as to hey, there's so many people that need this kind of help that it makes sense to take time out of our day to record these podcasts to help people kind of thing. Like that's a really big point that I want to just get across here, is that there is no shortage of people who need this kind of service kind of thing.
It's a great point. I mean, unless we were trying to self-sabotage, why would we go out and do that? It is a really, really great point. And I think it speaks to what I was saying before. Our problem is that there's not enough of us. And so this is actually your and my contribution to the solution of how do we go out and almost recruit new financial coaches to go out and do some of this stuff. Because the other side of this coin, Cody, is that you mentioned that there are some people that, have worked in other ways and done other things, and then they came with you and it clicked. And the other side of that is that there are going to be people who come to you who are going to be like, I just don't click with Cody.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we still want them to have help. And so how do we do that? We encourage each one of you who is listening today to put your own unique spin and your own brand out there, so that when somebody doesn't click with myself or with Cody, we have someone we can send them to. So that's the other reason that I think it's so important that we network. That's why every time we hit record, we ask you to join our Facebook group, because we want to be able to be in community with people who we know are doing good things. Maybe they're doing things a little bit differently than where we're doing it. And so when we have somebody who just doesn't click with us, we can say, you know what? I know exactly who you can go and talk to, because we have this community of other coaches that we can start referring people to.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing that I want to speak on this topic on, at least, is going back to that last statement that he said. How do we stand out? How do we gain influence? How do we build trust? And how do we grow a business in this kind of setting? And I think that it's a really simple question, or really simple answer, rather. It's not sexy, and it's just something that you just have to kind of take terms with. It really comes down to just be you. It's really what it comes down to. For example, on my end, I think that the reason that people resonate with me and my style of coaching is that I post pictures and I brand myself, and I'm not wearing a suit and tie. I have tattoos up my arm. I'm wearing a hat. I'm wearing street clothes, and I'm just a regular guy who's relatable, who likes to help people with their money. And I have a story, and I tell it. And when people, end up talking to me and they end up working with me, I then share some results that they have. And I just repeat the process over and over and over. I show up as my authentic self. I help people. I show people the results of that help. I give value, and that's it. So how do you stand out? How do you build trust? How do you build a business? Be you. That's really how you do it. Sorry, it wasn't a more tactical and practical thing that you can go out and do, but I think that it's probably the easiest thing that you can do is just be you, show up consistently and authentically, and run your business and help people.
Yeah. Words of wisdom for sure. And you can still be sexy.
You could. Yeah.
I'm kidding. I know that's not what you meant.
I wouldn't recommend, posting like a topless photo or something like that if you're a guy, But yeah, you can be sexy. You can.
I think those are definitely words of wisdom. Be yourself and also be confident in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have so much to offer. And if you compare, I mean, you've heard that comparison is the killer of joy. Don't do that. Don't compare who you are, what you're doing to what everyone else is doing. Sure, go and learn from what other people are doing. That's hopefully why you've tuned into today's podcast, is to learn. But you just want to be careful not to try to become Cody, try to become me. You want to make sure you are, like he said, authentically you. I have a hard time with that phrase myself, but I do think being authentic is super important, and you want to make sure you do show up, and you will meet the people that need your services.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Good discussion today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up today's episode, but really quick before I let you guys go, I want to just say a couple things. Number one, thank you for checking in today and listening to us, especially, the people who listen to every episode every week. We call you guys our every weekers, and we really do appreciate you specifically. This question actually came from an every weeker, which was pretty cool. So thank you for that. And then secondly, Maria kind of mentioned it in passing earlier. If you want to connect with us or any of the other coaches within our network, there is a really simple way to do that, and it's free and it's easy. It's our Facebook group. So, you can join that. It's called the Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits. I think there's like 2 or 3 questions to answer, and then you're good to go. So, hop in there, say hi, ask a question, and maybe, just maybe, that question will be on this podcast. So with that being said, thanks again for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching. Music provided by Summer School.